question that gets to the heart of economics. Who do we call the father of economics? Is it John Maynard Keynes, Adam Smith, David Ricardo, or Alfred Marshall? This question sets the stage for understanding the foundations of economic thought and the thinkers who shaped it. Adam Smith is often called the father of economics. Why? Because he was the first well-known economist to clearly explain how economics works. His ideas laid the foundation for the entire field. So when we talk about economics, we're really standing on the ground he helped build. This slide highlights that important point, why Adam Smith's role is so central to understanding economics today. Let's take a moment to consider a key date in economic history. When was Adam Smith's famous work, The Wealth of Nations, published? Was it 1756, 1766, 1776, or 1786? This question helps us anchor the ideas that shaped modern economics in their proper time. Keep these dates in mind as we explore the impact of Smith's groundbreaking book. One of the most important books in the history of economics is The Wealth of Nations. It was published in the late 18th century, marking a major turning point in how we understand markets and economic systems. This slide highlights the correct answer, focusing on the significance of that publication and its lasting impact on economic thought. It's a key moment we'll keep coming back to as we explore these ideas further. Adam Smith was a key figure in economic thought, and he had strong opinions about different systems. Of the options here, laissez-faire, socialism, mercantilism, and capitalism, he was particularly critical of one. His opposition was mainly directed at mercantilism, which he saw as restrictive and harmful to free trade. Understanding this helps us grasp the foundation of his ideas about markets and economic freedom. So the question is, which system did he strongly oppose? The answer is mercantilism. Here, we see the correct answer is number 3. Adam Smith was a strong critic of mercantilism, that system where governments tightly controlled trade and wealth. Instead, he championed free markets, believing that allowing individuals to pursue their own interests would lead to greater prosperity for all. This idea laid the groundwork for modern economics and helped shift thinking away from heavy-handed regulation. It's a key point in understanding how economic thought evolved. Let's look at the core idea behind mercantilism. Is it about equal wealth for everyone? Or maybe the government staying completely out of trade? What about focusing on exports over imports to build up gold and silver? Or could it be the opposite, maximizing imports and limiting exports? Mercantilism is all about how a country manages trade and wealth to strengthen itself. We'll see which of these options captures that best. Here, we're looking at the idea behind mercantilism. It's an old economic system where a country aims to grow rich by exporting more goods than it imports. The focus is on building up wealth, often measured in gold or precious metals. The goal? To create a trade surplus, keeping money flowing into the country rather than out. This approach shaped how nations thought about wealth and power for centuries. Let's explore a key idea in economics, the concept that when individuals chase their own self-interest, society as a whole ends up benefiting. This idea is famously captured by a term you might recognize. Is it the iron law of wages, the invisible hand, the social contract, or the visible hand? Today, we're focusing on this principle that highlights how personal motives can lead to positive social outcomes, often without anyone planning it that way. Here, we're looking at Adam Smith's famous idea, the invisible hand. It's the notion that when individuals pursue their own gain, they unintentionally contribute to the greater good. By seeking profit, they end up providing better services and benefits for everyone. It's a powerful concept that shows how personal incentives can align with society's interests, even without direct coordination. Let's talk about Adam Smith's idea of the division of labor. How does breaking work into specialized tasks impact production? Does it slow things down, make work harder, or maybe reduce total output? Actually, Smith argues that it increases speed and productivity. By focusing on specific tasks, workers become more skilled and efficient, which helps the whole factory produce more. This idea is a cornerstone of modern economics and manufacturing. When we divide work into parts, each person can focus on what they do best. This specialization means tasks get done faster and more efficiently. As a result, the overall production increases, we make more goods in less time. It's a simple idea, but it's the foundation of how many industries boost their productivity. Let's look at the term laissez-faire. Where does it come from? Is it German, French, Latin, or Greek? This question asks us to trace the roots of the phrase. It's a great example of how language shapes ideas, especially in economics and politics. The answer lies in one of these four languages, each with its own rich history and influence. Let's see which one gave us this famous expression. The correct answer here is number 7. Laissez-faire is a French phrase that literally means leave alone. It describes a market approach where the government steps back and lets businesses operate without interference. This idea is all about minimal regulation, trusting that the market will find its own balance. Understanding this term helps us see how different economic systems approach the role of government in business. Let's take a moment to look at where the word economics comes from. It actually has roots in ancient Greek, combining ideas about managing a household and the state, trade and barter, and ultimately the wealth of nations. These concepts show how economics started as a way to understand how resources are organized and exchanged, from the smallest unit, the home, all the way to entire countries. It's a reminder that economics is about managing value at every level. Here's the explanation behind the correct answer. The word comes from Greek. Oiko means home, and nomos means account or management. So together, they point to the idea of managing a household or home affairs. It's a reminder of how language often carries meaning that's rooted in history and culture. Understanding these roots helps us grasp the full concept behind the term. Let's take a moment to consider the origins of macroeconomics as its own field. We have 4 key figures here: Adam Smith, John Maynard Keynes, Ragnar Frisch, and Amartya Sen. The question is, who's widely recognized as the founder of macroeconomics as a separate branch? This sets the stage for understanding how the study of the economy at large really took shape. Keep these names in mind as we explore the answer. Here, we're looking at the correct answer, which is option 9. Letter B. John Maynard Keynes is the key figure here. He's the one who really put macroeconomics on the map as its own separate field. Before Keynes, economics didn't clearly separate the big picture economy from individual markets. His work changed that, shaping how we understand national economies today. Let's take a moment to think about a key moment in economic history. When did John Maynard Keynes publish his groundbreaking book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money? Was it 1926, 1936, 1946, or 1956? This work reshaped how we understand economies and government intervention. Keep that in mind as we move forward. The correct answer here is number 10. The explanation points to a revolutionary book, one that truly transformed modern economic thought. It was published back in 1936, marking a pivotal moment in how we understand economics today. This slide helps us see the significance of that work and why it remains so influential. Unlike Adam Smith, who favored minimal government interference, J.M. Keynes argued that during times of high unemployment, governments should step in actively. He believed the best approach was to start public projects and create jobs, injecting money into the economy to stimulate demand. So, rather than stopping public spending or cutting taxes to zero, Keynes advocated for intervention, using government action to help pull the economy out of a slump. This idea reshaped economic policy for decades to come. Here, we see the correct answer is number 11. The key idea is that Keynes believed in government stepping in to help the economy. When unemployment rises, he argued that boosting demand is crucial. That means investing in public projects and creating jobs directly. This approach helps get people working again and jumpstarts economic activity. It's a hands-on way to tackle unemployment, rather than waiting for the market to fix itself. Let's look at this question about economics. We're asked to identify which topic usually falls under macroeconomics. We have 4 options: demand for apples in a local market, national income and inflation, rent of a single shop, and the price of a specific mobile brand. Macroeconomics deals with the big picture, things like overall income, inflation, and the economy as a whole. So the right choice here is national income and inflation. Here, we see the correct answer highlighted as option 12, with an explanation to clarify why. Macroeconomics is all about the big picture, the entire economy as a whole. It looks at national income, inflation, and how the economy grows over time. This helps us understand broad trends, rather than focusing on individual markets or consumers. So when we talk macroeconomics, we're zooming out to see the full economic landscape. Let's take a moment to think about economic systems. We have 4 types here: purely capitalist, purely socialist, mixed, and traditional economies. Now the question is, which one does India follow? It's not a straightforward choice, because India's economy blends elements from different systems. We'll explore this further, but for now, keep in mind that India's approach is unique, combining market freedom with government intervention. The correct answer here is number 13. India has a mixed economy, which means both private businesses and government enterprises work side by side. It's not purely one or the other. Instead, the 2 sectors cooperate to drive growth and development. This balance allows for flexibility, combining the strengths of private innovation with public oversight and support. Understanding this helps us see how India's economy functions in a complex, interconnected way. Let's look at some key sectors in India that are considered strategic and still largely controlled by the government. These include textiles and garments, defense and railways, mobile manufacturing and IT, and retail and tourism. The question here is, which of these sectors remain under significant government oversight? Understanding this helps us see where the government prioritizes control for economic and security reasons. It's a crucial point in grasping India's industrial landscape. Here, we see why the correct answer is number 14. In India, strategic sectors such as defense, railways, and atomic energy are mainly under government control. This means the state plays a key role in managing these critical areas, ensuring national security and infrastructure stability. It's a deliberate choice to keep these sectors within public oversight, rather than leaving them to private hands. This approach reflects the importance of safeguarding essential services and resources. Let's break down what microeconomics really focuses on. It's all about the small units of the economy, things like individual consumers, firms, or households. Unlike macroeconomics, which looks at the big picture like national growth or unemployment rates, microeconomics zooms in on the decisions and behaviors of these smaller players. Understanding this helps us see how the economy functions at its most basic level. Here, we see the correct answer is number 15. Option B. Microeconomics focuses on the smaller pieces of the puzzle: individual people, single companies, or specific markets. It zooms in on how these units make decisions, interact, and respond to changes. This contrasts with macroeconomics, which looks at the big picture, entire economies, and broad trends. Understanding microeconomics helps us grasp the details behind everyday economic choices. Let's take a moment to think about when the first Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded. The options range from the early 1900s to the late 1990s. It's interesting to consider how recent this prize is compared to the others. This question helps us place the economics prize in historical context, a key detail for understanding its role and impact in the world of academia and beyond. Here's a quick clarification about the Nobel Prizes. While the original awards began way back in 1901, the prize for economics came much later. It was first given out in 1969. So, when we talk about the full range of Nobel categories, economics is actually a more recent addition to the tradition. Let's look at a question about the very first winners of the Nobel Prize in Economics. The options include some of the most influential economists, from Milton Friedman and Paul Samuelson, to Adam Smith and J.M. Keynes, to Ragnar Frisch and Jan Tinbergen, and finally Amartya Sen and Abhijit Banerjee. The question asks us to identify which pair actually shared that inaugural prize. It's a moment that marked the beginning of recognizing economics on a global stage. The correct answer here is number 17. These 2 economists were honored with the very first award for their groundbreaking work. They developed econometric models, tools that let us analyze and understand complex economic processes with data. Their contribution laid the foundation for how we study economics today, blending theory with real-world numbers to uncover insights we couldn't see before. Let's talk about the official name of the Nobel Prize in Economics. There are a few well-known awards out there, like the Adam Smith Memorial Prize, the World Bank Global Economic Award, and the Alfred Nobel Economic Foundation Prize. But the correct, formal title is actually the Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. It's a mouthful, but it honors both the Nobel legacy and the Swedish central bank's role in establishing the prize. The correct answer here is number 18. The prize was set up by the Central Bank of Sweden, known as Sveriges Riksbank, to honor the legacy of Alfred Nobel. It's a way to recognize outstanding contributions in various fields, linking back to Nobel's vision and impact. This connection gives the prize its unique prestige and historical significance. Let's clear up a common misconception about the Economics Nobel Prize. Was it part of Alfred Nobel's original will? The answer is no. The prize was actually established much later, in 1968, and it wasn't one of the original awards. Nobels will focused on other fields, and the Economics Prize came as an addition by the Swedish Central Bank. So, it's a relatively recent development compared to the other Nobel Prizes. The correct answer here is number 19. Alfred Nobel's original will set the foundation for the Nobel Prizes, but it only included 5 categories: physics, chemistry, medicine, literature, and peace. These were the fields he specifically mentioned, shaping the awards as we know them today. Other categories came later, but these 5 were Nobel's original vision. Let's take a moment to focus on Professor Amartya Sen's groundbreaking work, which earned him the Nobel Prize in Economics back in 1998. The question here asks us to identify the field where his contributions made the biggest impact. Was it econometrics, welfare economics and poverty, international trade, or stock market analysis? His work reshaped how we think about welfare and poverty, highlighting the importance of human well-being beyond just numbers. The correct answer here is 20. Amartya Sen earned recognition for his groundbreaking work in welfare economics and human development. He helped us rethink poverty, not just as a lack of income, but as a deprivation of capabilities and opportunities. His ideas have reshaped how we understand human well-being and social justice around the world. Amartya Sen challenges the idea that development is just about money or GDP. Instead, he says we should look deeper, at what people can actually do and be. His capability approach focuses on health, education, and overall quality of life. It's not about gold reserves or the number of factories. It's about real opportunities, the freedoms people have to live the lives they value. That's the heart of true development. The correct answer here is number 21. The key idea is that his approach moved beyond simply measuring income. Instead, it looked at the real freedoms people enjoy, things like health, education, and the ability to live the life they value. It's a shift from numbers on a page to the actual capabilities that make life meaningful. This perspective changes how we think about development and well-being. Let's take a moment to focus on a key milestone. The question here asks, in which year was Amartya Sen awarded the Bharat Ratna? This award is one of India's highest civilian honors, recognizing exceptional service. The options range from 1998 to 2001. Think about the timeline and the significance of this award in the context of Sen's contributions to economics and social justice. It's a moment worth remembering. The correct answer here is option B. After winning the Nobel Prize in 1998, he was honored with India's highest civilian award the very next year, in 1999. This sequence highlights how his global recognition was quickly followed by national acclaim, marking a significant moment in his career and legacy. Let's look at what the primary sector depends on. This sector is all about natural resources, things we get straight from the earth. So, it's directly tied to natural resources themselves. It's not about information technology, factory production, or service providing. Instead, it's the raw materials, the foundation everything else builds on. Understanding this helps us see how different parts of the economy connect and rely on each other. Here, we see the correct answer is option B. The primary sector is all about using natural resources straight from the earth. That means things like land, water, and minerals, the raw materials we rely on before any processing or manufacturing happens. It's the foundation of many economies, especially those focused on agriculture, fishing, mining, and forestry. Understanding this helps us see how resources flow through different parts of the economy. Let's take a moment to think about the primary sector, the part of the economy focused on extracting natural resources directly from the earth. Which of these activities fits that description? Teaching, mining, banking, or car manufacturing? One of these is all about working with raw materials, the foundation of everything else. That's the key to understanding the primary sector in this question. Here, we see the correct answer is option C. Mining, like agriculture, fishing, and forestry, is classified as a primary activity. That's because it involves directly extracting natural resources from the environment. These activities form the foundation of many economies, providing raw materials that everything else builds on. Understanding this helps us see how industries connect to the natural world and why they're grouped this way. Let's take a closer look at the different economic sectors. The primary sector deals with raw materials, things like farming, fishing, and mining. The secondary sector is where the magic happens. It's all about turning those raw materials into finished goods. Then we have the tertiary sector, which focuses on services. Finally, the quaternary sector involves knowledge-based activities. Here, the question asks us to identify the sector responsible for converting raw materials into finished products. The answer is the secondary sector. The correct answer here is 25. Let's break down why. The secondary sector, also called the industrial sector, is all about turning raw materials into finished goods. Think manufacturing, making cars, producing clothes, or assembling electronics. It's the stage where basic resources become products we use every day. This sector plays a crucial role in the economy by adding value and creating jobs through processing and production. Let's take a moment to think about the different sectors of the economy. We've got primary, secondary, tertiary, and quinary sectors. Now, which one do you think is also called the service sector? It's a key question because understanding these sectors helps us see how economies function and where most people work. The answer lies in the tertiary sector. That's where services like healthcare, education, and retail come in. It's all about providing services rather than producing goods. The correct answer here is 26. The key idea is the tertiary sector. This part of the economy focuses on providing services rather than goods. Think banking, healthcare, transport, all the ways people and businesses get support and assistance. It's about meeting needs that aren't about making or growing things, but about helping them move, function, and thrive. This sector plays a huge role in everyday life and the broader economy. Let's break down the four main sectors of the economy. The primary sector covers natural resources like farming and mining. The secondary sector is all about manufacturing and production. The tertiary sector focuses on services, such as retail and hospitality. But when we talk about knowledge-based activities, things like research, and data analysis, these belong to the quaternary sector. It's the part of the economy driven by information and expertise. The correct answer here is number 27. The quaternary sector focuses on activities related to information, research, and intellectual services. It's all about knowledge-based work, things like data analysis, education, and innovation. This sector goes beyond traditional industries, highlighting how important information and expertise have become in today's economy. Understanding this helps us see the evolving nature of work and the economy itself. The quinary sector is all about the highest levels of decision-making and leadership. It includes CEOs, government leaders, and top executives who shape policies and strategies. Unlike farming, construction, or retail, this sector focuses on guiding entire organizations or nations. It's where critical choices are made, decisions that ripple through every other part of the economy. So, when we talk about the quinary sector, we're talking about leadership at its peak. The correct answer here is option B. This sector refers to the highest level of decision makers, people like the Prime Minister or top executives. These are the individuals who shape national policies and set the direction for the entire country or organization. Their decisions have wide-reaching impact, influencing everything from economic strategies to social programs. Understanding who these leaders are helps us grasp how major policies come to life. Let's look at these 4 roles and figure out which one fits into the quinary sector. We have a factory worker assembling cars, a prime minister making national policies, a teacher in a school, and a farmer growing wheat. The quinary sector is all about high-level decision-making and leadership, roles that shape society on a broad scale. So, which one do you think it is? The answer lies in the prime minister, who's involved in national policies and big-picture decisions. Here, we're looking at the quinary sector, the highest level of decision-making in an economy. Think of a prime minister or a CEO making major strategic choices. Their work shapes policies, directs organizations, and influences entire industries. This sector is all about leadership and top-level management, where critical decisions impact the bigger picture. It's a small group, but their impact is huge. Let's break down what defines a command economy. It's a system where the government owns and controls all resources, no private businesses here. Decisions aren't made based on market forces, but rather on long-standing customs or central planning. And importantly, there's no trade with the outside world. These features together create an economy directed from the top down, rather than driven by individual choice or competition. Let's look at why option B is the correct answer here. In a command economy, the government takes the lead. It controls what gets produced, sets prices, and decides how resources are distributed. This is very different from a market economy, where those decisions come from supply and demand. A clear example of a command economy is North Korea, where the government's role is central and all-encompassing. Let's look at what a capitalist economy is really about. It's not about making sure everyone has equal wealth, or just sticking to traditional customs. Instead, the core idea is earning profit through private ownership and competition. That's where the energy comes from: businesses competing, innovating, and driving growth. It's definitely not about discouraging international trade either. So, the heart of capitalism lies in private enterprise and the pursuit of profit. The correct answer here is number 31. Capitalism is all about private individuals owning businesses, aiming to make profits. It's a system driven by competition, companies competing in the market to succeed. This competition encourages innovation and efficiency, shaping how resources are allocated. So, when we talk about capitalism, we're really talking about a marketplace where ownership and profit motive are key. Let's explore what defines a closed economy. A closed economy is one that has very little or no trade with other countries. It doesn't rely solely on the service sector, nor is it ruled by a single dictator. And it certainly doesn't promote unrestricted global trade. Instead, it focuses inward, limiting its economic interactions with the outside world. This idea helps us understand how some economies operate with minimal external influence. Here, we see the correct answer is number 32. The key idea is that a closed economy limits its interactions with other countries. It doesn't trade much beyond its own borders. This means it's largely self-contained, focusing on internal production and consumption instead of relying on imports or exports. Understanding this helps us grasp how different economies operate on the global stage. Let's explore the idea of the barter system. It's a method where people trade goods and services directly, no money involved. Think of it as swapping something you have for something you need. This system is different from using digital currency, trading only in gold and silver, or having the government set prices. The barter system is all about straightforward exchange, no middleman, no cash, just a simple trade. The correct answer here is number 33. Barter means swapping one good directly for another, like trading wheat for a service, without any cash changing hands. It's the oldest form of exchange, relying purely on mutual agreement and value, rather than money as a middleman. This explanation helps us understand how trade can happen even without currency. Let's talk about dumping in international trade. It's when a country exports goods to another country at a price lower than their production cost. This practice can hurt local industries by undercutting prices unfairly. It's not about banning imports, selling luxury items, or pollution. Dumping is specifically about pricing strategies that impact global markets and trade fairness. Understanding this helps us see why trade rules exist to keep things balanced. Let's talk about why companies use dumping. Essentially, they sell products at very low prices in foreign markets. The goal? To undercut local competitors and grab a bigger slice of the market. It's a strategic move, sometimes controversial, aimed at gaining market share by making it tough for others to keep up. This explanation helps us understand the real impact behind those low prices we often see. Let's take a moment to clarify what inflation really means. Inflation is best understood as an increase in the price of goods and services over time. It's not about the money supply shrinking or the population suddenly growing, and it's definitely not a decrease in overall prices. Instead, inflation signals that prices are rising steadily, which affects how much your money can buy. This question helps us pin down that core concept. Let's talk about why the correct answer is number 35. Option B. Inflation happens when prices go up over time, which means your money doesn't buy as much as it used to. In other words, the purchasing power of money decreases. This concept is key to understanding how economies change and why managing inflation matters so much. It's not just about higher prices, it's about the value of money itself shrinking as things get more expensive. Let's break down what gross domestic product, or GDP, actually measures. It's not about how many people live in a country, nor is it the total debt a nation carries. It's also not the total taxes collected by the government. Instead, GDP captures the total value of all goods and services produced within a country over the course of a year. This gives us a snapshot of economic activity and overall productivity. Understanding GDP helps us see how an economy is performing. The correct answer here is number 36. GDP, or gross domestic product, measures the total economic output of a country over the course of 1 year. Think of it as the country's annual earnings report. It sums up everything produced, from goods to services. This number gives us a snapshot of economic health and growth, helping us understand how well a country is doing financially. It's a key indicator that economists and policymakers watch closely. Let's talk about fiscal deficit. What exactly causes it? It happens when a government spends more than it earns. In other words, when government expenditure exceeds its income, that's a fiscal deficit. It's not about stopping imports or raising interest rates. Those are different economic actions. The key point here is the gap between what the government brings in and what it spends. When spending is higher, that's when a fiscal deficit occurs. Here, we see the correct answer is number 37. With option B, the key idea is a fiscal deficit. That's when a government spends more than it takes in. This creates a shortfall, a gap that needs to be covered somehow, usually by borrowing. Understanding this helps us grasp how governments manage their budgets and why deficits matter in the bigger economic picture. The economic problem of scarcity comes down to a simple but powerful idea. It's not that resources are unlimited, they're not. And it's not that human wants are limited, in fact, they're endless. Scarcity happens because we have unlimited wants, but only limited resources to satisfy them. This tension forces us to make choices, and that's the core challenge economics tries to address. So, understanding scarcity means recognizing the gap between what we desire and what's actually available. Let's talk about scarcity, the core challenge in economics. It means we have limited resources like money, time, and land. But our wants and needs, they're practically unlimited. So, scarcity forces us to make choices, to prioritize what matters most. Understanding this helps us see why economics exists. It's all about managing those limits in a world full of endless desires. Opportunity cost is a key concept in decision-making. It's not about the money you spend or the taxes you pay. Instead, it's the value of the next best alternative you give up when you make a choice. In other words, it's what you miss out on by choosing one option over another. Understanding this helps us see the true cost behind every decision. Here, we're looking at the idea of opportunity cost. When we pick one option, like watching a movie, we're giving up something else, maybe studying. That lost benefit, the thing we miss out on, is what we call the opportunity cost. It's a simple concept but really important when we're making choices, because every decision has a trade-off. Let's talk about incentives in economics. Incentives are rewards or benefits that influence how people behave and make decisions. They encourage certain actions by offering something desirable. This is different from penalties or fixed prices, which don't motivate in the same way. Understanding incentives helps us see why people choose one option over another. It's all about what they stand to gain or lose. The correct answer here is number 40. Incentives, like salary increases or discounts, play a powerful role in motivating behavior. They encourage people to work harder or to buy more by offering a clear reward. It's a simple but effective way to boost effort and engagement, whether in the workplace or in the marketplace. Understanding how incentives drive action helps us design better systems and experiences. When we talk about fiscal policy, we're really focusing on how the government uses its power to influence the economy. The main tool here is government taxation and expenditure. That means adjusting how much money the government collects in taxes and how much it spends. It's different from setting interest rates or controlling the money supply. Those belong to monetary policy. Fiscal policy is all about the budget decisions that shape economic growth and stability. The correct answer here is number 41. Fiscal policy is basically the government's strategy for managing the economy through its decisions on taxes and spending. It's about how much money they collect from taxes and how much they decide to put back into the economy through public services, infrastructure, and programs. This balance can influence everything from growth to inflation. So, when we talk about fiscal policy, we're really talking about the government's financial game plan. Let's look at what defines a public sector undertaking, or PSU. Is it an international NGO, a small village shop, or maybe a company where the government owns more than 51% of the shares, or perhaps a company owned by a private individual? The key here is government ownership. When it's more than half, that's a PSU. This question helps us understand how public and private sectors are distinguished in business. The correct answer here is 42. To explain, PSUs, or public sector undertakings, are companies owned and controlled by the government. Examples include big names like SBI and ONGC. These organizations play a crucial role in the economy, operating in sectors that are vital to national interests. Understanding what PSUs are helps us grasp how government involvement shapes certain industries and services. Expansionary fiscal policy is a tool governments use to stimulate the economy. It usually means increasing spending or cutting taxes to put more money into people's hands. This approach is most often applied during a recession, when the economy slows down and needs a boost. So, the goal here is to jumpstart growth, not to control inflation or stop projects. Understanding when and why to use expansionary fiscal policy helps us see how governments try to keep the economy moving forward. Here, we see the correct answer is number 43, with option B explained. When the economy slows down, the government steps in by spending more and cutting taxes. This approach is designed to boost demand and help create jobs. It's a classic move in economic policy, using government action to kickstart growth when things start to stall. Let's talk about contractionary fiscal policy, what it's mainly used for. This approach is about tightening the government's purse strings. It's designed to control inflation, usually by reducing government spending or raising taxes. The goal? To slow down an overheated economy and keep prices from rising too fast. It's not about increasing the deficit or encouraging more spending. Instead, it's a deliberate move to cool things off when inflation gets out of hand. When inflation runs high, governments often step in to cool things down. They try to contract the economy, slowing spending and borrowing, to bring prices back under control. This approach helps stabilize the market and prevent runaway inflation from hurting everyday people. So, the correct answer here reflects that strategy, tightening the economy to keep inflation in check. Let's focus on the FRBM Act of 2003. The acronym stands for the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. This law was designed to bring discipline to government finances, ensuring that spending and borrowing stay under control. It's a key piece of financial reform, helping maintain a stable economy by managing the budget responsibly. So, when you hear FRBM, think fiscal responsibility and budget management. The correct answer here is number 45. This law exists to make sure the government stays financially disciplined. It's all about keeping debt under control. Without rules like this, spending could spiral out of hand. So, it's a safeguard, helping maintain balance and responsibility in managing public funds. Let's look at the committees involved in shaping financial policy. Among these, one was specifically formed to review how the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, or FRBM Act, was being implemented. The question here is, which committee took on that role? We'll explore the options and see which one was tasked with this important review. It's a key point in understanding how fiscal discipline is monitored in our system. Here, we see the correct answer highlighted as number 46. The key point is the role of the N.K. Singh Committee. It was set up to recommend a fresh approach to fiscal consolidation. In other words, this committee's job was to chart a new path for managing government finances more sustainably. Understanding this helps us grasp how fiscal policy evolves through expert guidance and structured planning. The escape clause in the FRBM Act gives the government some flexibility when it comes to managing the country's finances. It doesn't let them avoid presenting the budget or shut down the Reserve Bank of India. Nor does it allow them to stop paying national debts altogether. Instead, it permits relaxing fiscal deficit targets during emergencies, like a pandemic or war, so the government can respond effectively without being hamstrung by strict rules. Sometimes, unexpected events like natural disasters or war force the government to change its plans. In these rare cases, it's okay for the government to step away from its usual fiscal targets, just for a while. This flexibility helps respond quickly and effectively when the situation demands it. So, while targets guide us most of the time, exceptions exist for truly exceptional circumstances. Let's look at who's in charge of monetary policy in India. We have 4 key institutions here: the Ministry of Finance, NITI Aayog, the Reserve Bank of India, and SEBI. Out of these, only one is responsible for setting and managing monetary policy, the tools that control money supply, interest rates, and inflation. This question helps us understand the role each institution plays in India's economic framework. Which one do you think it is? Here, we see the correct answer is option C. The explanation highlights the role of the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, as the central bank. It controls interest rates and manages the money supply by using monetary policy. This is how it influences the economy, aiming to maintain stability and growth. Understanding this helps us grasp how central banks steer financial systems. Let's take a moment to look at the origins of the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC. This question asks us to identify the year it was established. The options range from 1935 to 2020, covering several key moments in economic history. Understanding when the MPC came into being helps us grasp how monetary policy has evolved over time and why it plays such a crucial role in managing the economy today. The correct answer here is number 49. The key point is understanding the role of the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee. It was established in 2016 with a clear purpose: to set policy interest rates, like the repo rate. These rates are crucial tools for managing inflation, helping keep the economy stable. So, when we talk about controlling inflation, the MPC is the body that makes those important decisions. Let's look at the current inflation target range set by the Reserve Bank of India, or RBI. There are 4 options here. One is no specific target at all. Another suggests a range between 8 and 10%. Then there's a narrower range, 4%, plus or minus 2%, so between 2 and 6. Finally, a fixed target of 2%. The question is, which of these best describes the RBI's current inflation goal? Here, we see the correct answer is 50, with an explanation tied to the Reserve Bank of India's inflation target. The RBI's goal is to maintain inflation close to 4%, but they allow some flexibility, a band ranging from 2 to 6%. This range helps balance economic growth with price stability, giving policymakers room to respond to changing conditions without overreacting. Understanding this target is key to grasping how monetary policy works in practice. Let's look at some key economic indicators here. We have the Wholesale Price Index, the Consumer Price Index, the Sensex, and the GDP deflator. The question is, which one does India primarily use to target inflation? Understanding this helps us see how policymakers track price changes and make decisions that affect the whole economy. It's a crucial piece in the puzzle of managing growth and stability. Here, we see the correct answer is number 51, with an explanation that helps us understand why. The key point is that headline CPI, or Consumer Price Index, is the main measure the Monetary Policy Committee uses when deciding on policy changes. It's the indicator they watch closely to gauge inflation and guide their decisions. This helps us grasp the practical role headline CPI plays in economic policy. Let's break down what the Cash Reserve Ratio, or CRR, actually means. It's the percentage of deposits that banks are required to keep with the Reserve Bank of India, not in their own vaults, but as a mandatory reserve. This isn't about the interest they charge or the tax they pay. It's a specific rule to ensure banks hold a certain amount of cash with the RBI, helping maintain liquidity and stability in the banking system. Here, we're looking at why banks have to hold a certain portion of their deposits with the Reserve Bank of India. This isn't just a random rule. It's called the Cash Reserve Ratio. Banks can't use this money for lending or investment, and importantly, they don't earn any interest on it. This requirement helps maintain stability in the banking system and controls the money supply in the economy. Let's talk about the Statutory Liquidity Ratio, or SLR. It's a rule that banks must follow, keeping a certain portion of their reserves in specific forms. These can include cash, gold, government securities, or a combination of these. The question here is, which of these does the SLR specifically require banks to maintain? Understanding this helps us grasp how banks stay secure and stable in their operations. Here, we're looking at why SLR assets are treated differently from those in the CRR. Unlike the CRR, where assets might be more flexible, SLR assets are held directly by the banks. This is to make sure they always have enough liquidity on hand, ready to meet their short-term obligations without a hitch. It's a safeguard that keeps the banking system stable and responsive. Let's look at the composition of the Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC. The question here is simple. How many members does it have? The options range from 3 to 10. Understanding the size of the MPC is key because it influences how decisions on interest rates and inflation targets are made. So which number feels right, 3, 5, 6, or 10? Keep this in mind as we explore how monetary policy shapes the economy. The correct answer here is 54. Let's break down why. The Monetary Policy Committee, or MPC, is made up of 6 members in total. Half of them, 3, come from the Reserve Bank of India, including the governor. The other 3 are appointed by the central government. This balance ensures a mix of perspectives when making key decisions about monetary policy. When the Monetary Policy Committee faces a tie in their vote, one person holds the power to break the deadlock. This slide asks us to identify who that person is. Is it the Finance Minister, the Prime Minister, the RBI Governor, or the Chief Economic Advisor? Understanding who has the casting vote helps us grasp how key economic decisions are finalized when opinions differ. Let's explore this important role in the decision-making process. Here, we see the correct answer is number 55, with an important explanation. The RBI governor holds a special role. They have a second or casting vote. This means when there's a tie or deadlock in decision-making, the governor's vote breaks the tie. It's a crucial mechanism to keep things moving smoothly, preventing stalemates in important financial decisions. Let's break down how the repo rate fits into the bigger picture of money flow. The government collects taxes from citizens, while banks lend money to the public. The Reserve Bank of India, or RBI, plays a crucial role by lending short-term money to commercial banks, but it does this against securities. The repo rate is the interest rate at which the RBI lends to these banks. It's a key tool for controlling liquidity in the economy. The correct answer here is option B. This is because the repo rate is the main policy rate set by the Reserve Bank of India. When the RBI raises the repo rate, borrowing costs go up. That means loans become more expensive for banks, and they pass those costs on to customers. This tool helps control inflation by managing how much money is circulating in the economy. So, an increase in the repo rate typically cools down spending and borrowing. Let's talk about the reverse repo rate. It's a key tool used by the Reserve Bank of India to manage money flow. Essentially, it's the rate at which the RBI borrows money from commercial banks, absorbing excess funds from the system. This helps control liquidity and inflation. So, when the RBI wants to mop up surplus cash, it offers banks this rate to park their money safely. Understanding this rate is crucial to grasp how monetary policy keeps the economy balanced. When banks have extra money, they don't just let it sit idle. Instead, they park it with the Reserve Bank of India. This helps them earn interest, specifically at what's called the reverse repo rate. It's a way for banks to safely grow their surplus funds while keeping the system stable. Understanding this mechanism is key to grasping how central banks manage liquidity in the economy. Let's talk about the Marginal Standing Facility, or MSF. It's a tool banks use when they need very short-term funds, often overnight, to meet urgent liquidity needs. It's not for long-term loans or infrastructure projects, and it's definitely not about opening new branches. Instead, MSF helps banks borrow quickly from the Reserve Bank of India, keeping the system stable when cash runs tight. Here, we see the correct answer is number 58. The explanation tells us that the Marginal Standing Facility, or MSF, acts as an emergency window. It allows banks to borrow overnight funds directly from the central bank. This facility is crucial because it provides quick liquidity support when banks face short-term cash shortages. It's a safety net, helping maintain stability in the banking system during tight money situations. Let's look at whether the Reserve Bank of India pays interest to commercial banks on their cash reserve ratio, or CRR. This question has a few options. Some say yes, at the repo rate or the bank rate. Others say no, it pays zero interest or only during a financial crisis. Understanding this helps us grasp how central banks manage liquidity and influence banking behavior. It's a key detail in how monetary policy works behind the scenes. Here's an important clarification. The Reserve Bank of India does not pay interest on the cash deposits that banks hold under the cash reserve ratio, or CRR. This means that while banks are required to keep a certain amount of money with the RBI, they don't earn any interest on this portion. It's a key detail that affects how banks manage their funds and liquidity. Let's look at the structure of leadership at the Reserve Bank of India. We know it's managed by a governor, but how many deputy governors support them? Is it 1, 2, 4, or 6? This question helps us understand the governance framework that keeps such a crucial institution running smoothly. Think about the balance between leadership and delegation here. The central leadership of the Reserve Bank of India is made up of 1 governor and 4 deputy governors. This structure ensures clear lines of authority and decision-making at the top. When we think about how the RBI guides monetary policy and financial regulation, this leadership team plays a crucial role in steering those efforts effectively. Open market operations, or OMO, are a key tool used by the Reserve Bank of India. But what exactly do they involve? It's about buying and selling government securities in the open market. This helps control liquidity and influence interest rates. It's not about directing banks to hire more people, regulating agricultural prices, or opening new bank accounts. Instead, OMO is all about managing money flow to keep the economy steady. Let's talk about open market operations, or OMO. This tool helps control liquidity in the economy. When the central bank buys securities, it puts money into the system, making cash more available. On the flip side, selling securities pulls money out, tightening liquidity. It's a powerful way to manage the flow of money and keep the economy balanced. The Market Stabilization Scheme, or MSS, was introduced to tackle a specific challenge. It's designed to absorb excess liquidity. That's the extra money floating around the economy, often from large foreign capital inflows. This helps keep things steady and prevents overheating. So, among options like nationalizing banks or fixing share prices, the key goal here is managing liquidity to stabilize the market. It's a targeted tool for a very particular economic balancing act. Here's the key idea. MSS, or Market Stabilization Scheme, helps the Reserve Bank of India handle excess money circulating in the economy. It does this by issuing special government bonds, which soak up that extra cash. This tool is crucial for keeping the financial system balanced and preventing inflation from spiraling out of control. In short, MSS is a way to manage liquidity effectively. Sterilization in monetary policy is all about managing the money supply to keep the economy stable. Specifically, it means withdrawing excess liquidity from the market. This helps prevent inflation or overheating. It's not about fixing exchange rates, closing banks, or cleaning currency notes. Instead, sterilization is a tool central banks use to balance the flow of money, making sure things don't get out of control. It's a subtle but powerful way to maintain financial stability. Here, we're looking at the correct answer, number 63. The explanation points to a technical term. It's about absorbing extra money from the economy. This happens through specific tools like MSS or OMO. These mechanisms help manage liquidity, keeping the financial system balanced. Understanding these terms is key to grasping how monetary policy works in practice. Let's talk about moral suasion, a subtle but powerful tool used by the RBI. Instead of forcing banks to act, it persuades or advises them through meetings and requests. It's not about fines or canceling licenses or taking direct control. Instead, it's a way to influence behavior by appealing to the bank's sense of responsibility and cooperation. This approach relies on dialogue and trust, rather than strict enforcement. The correct answer here is 64, and the key point is about how the RBI influences banks. Instead of applying force or strict mandates, the RBI relies on persuasion and subtle pressure. This approach encourages banks to stick to credit guidelines without heavy-handed intervention. It's a more collaborative way to maintain financial discipline, helping banks stay aligned with broader economic goals while avoiding direct confrontation. Credit rationing is a concept that deals with how loans are distributed. It's not about giving loans to everyone, no matter their income, nor is it simply printing extra money for the poor. Instead, it's about the RBI setting limits or ceilings on how much banks can lend. This means banks can't just hand out unlimited loans, even if there's demand. It's a way to manage risk and keep the financial system stable. Here, we're looking at why option B is the correct answer. This tool is qualitative, meaning it focuses on the quality or characteristics rather than just numbers. Its purpose is to limit the amount of credit that can be directed towards certain sectors or specific uses. In other words, it helps guide lending in a way that aligns with broader goals or policies by setting boundaries on where credit flows. This keeps the financial system balanced and targeted. Priority sector lending, or PSL, is a rule that asks banks to set aside part of their lending for specific areas. These include sectors like agriculture, micro, small and medium enterprises, often called MSMEs, and support for weaker sections of society. The goal is to ensure credit reaches the parts of the economy that need it most, rather than luxury car makers or large real estate developers. It's about directing funds where they can make the biggest social impact. Here, we see the correct answer is number 66. The key idea behind this is the priority sector lending, or PSL. It makes sure that important sectors, which might otherwise be overlooked, receive the financial backing they need from banks. This mechanism helps balance support across the economy, especially for areas that are essential but don't always attract enough investment on their own. Let's look at a key moment in India's financial history. The question asks, on whose recommendation was the Reserve Bank of India established? We have four options: the Simon Commission, the Hilton-Young Commission, the Nehru Committee, and the Narasimhan Committee. Among these, one stands out as the driving force behind the creation of the RBI. Understanding this helps us trace how India's central banking system was shaped in its early days. The correct answer here is number 67. The key point is that the Royal Commission on Indian Currency and Finance, also known as the Hilton-Young Commission, recommended setting up a central bank back in 1926. This was a major step in shaping India's financial system, laying the groundwork for modern banking institutions. Understanding this helps us see how financial governance evolved during that period. Let's pause here with a quick quiz. When was the Reserve Bank of India nationalized? Was it 1935, 1947, 1949, or 1969? Think about the historical context. This moment marked a major shift in how the country managed its monetary policy and financial system. Keep this question in mind as we explore the evolution of banking in India. Here, we see the correct answer is 68, with an important historical note. The Reserve Bank of India began as a private shareholders' bank back in 1935. Then, in 1949, the government took control, transforming it into the central bank we know today. This shift marked a major turning point in India's financial system, laying the foundation for modern monetary policy and regulation. Understanding this history helps us appreciate the RBI's role and evolution over time. Let's look at who's responsible for issuing coins and the 1 rupee note in India. This question points us to 4 key institutions: the Reserve Bank of India, the Government of India's Ministry of Finance, the State Bank of India, and NITI Aayog. Understanding which of these actually issues currency helps us grasp how monetary control and government functions are divided in India. It's a fundamental piece of knowledge about the country's financial system. Here, we see the correct answer is option B. The key point is that while the Reserve Bank of India issues most currency notes, the 1 rupee note and all coins are actually issued by the Government of India itself. This distinction is important because it highlights the unique role the government plays in managing certain parts of the currency system, separate from the central bank. Understanding this helps clarify how currency issuance is structured in India. Let's look at a quick quiz on currency. The question asks whose signature appears on the 1 rupee note. Is it the finance minister, the finance secretary, the prime minister, or the RBI governor? This might seem like a small detail, but it highlights how different authorities are involved in our financial system. Knowing the answer helps us understand the roles behind the scenes in managing the country's money. Here, the correct answer is number 70. The key reason is that the I-1 note comes directly from the government, which means it carries the signature of the finance secretary. This signature is what authenticates the note and links it officially to the government's authority. It's a small detail, but an important one when understanding how government-issued documents are validated. Let's look at a question about India's currency history. We're asked to identify 2 specific years when high-denomination banknotes were demonetized before 2016. The options range from the mid-1930s to the early 1990s. This question highlights key moments when the government took bold steps to withdraw large currency notes, impacting the economy and daily life. Understanding these years helps us see how monetary policy has evolved over time. Here, we see the explanation behind the correct answer, number 71. It tells us that high-value notes were taken out of circulation not once, but twice, first in 1946 and then again in 1978. These moves had a big impact on the economy and currency use at those times. Understanding why and when this happened helps us grasp the broader financial history involved. Let's take a moment to look at a question about the role of the Reserve Bank of India before 1947. It asks which country had the RBI acting as its central bank until April of that year. The options are Sri Lanka, Burma, Bhutan, and Nepal. This question highlights a unique historical relationship in the region, showing how financial systems were interconnected during that time. It's a reminder of how central banking roles can extend beyond borders under certain circumstances. Here, we see the correct answer is number 72. Option C. The explanation is straightforward. Since Burma was once part of British India, the Reserve Bank of India acted as its central bank for a number of years. This historical connection helps clarify why the RBI played that role, linking colonial administration with financial institutions. It's a good reminder of how history shapes the structures we see today. Let's look at a key historical question about the Reserve Bank of India. When did it stop serving as the Central Bank of Pakistan? The options range from August 1947 to December 1971. This question helps us understand the timeline of central banking in the region and the pivotal moments when financial control shifted. It's a reminder of how closely history and economics are intertwined in shaping nations. The correct answer here is 73. After partition, the Reserve Bank of India stepped in to manage Pakistan's monetary system. This arrangement continued until the State Bank of Pakistan was established and ready to take over in 1948. It was a crucial transition period, ensuring stability while the new country set up its own financial institutions. Let's take a moment to focus on the emblem of the Reserve Bank of India. The question here asks us to identify the animal and tree featured in the RBI emblem. Is it the lion and banyan tree, the tiger and palm tree, the elephant and lotus, or the horse and Ashoka chakra? This is a classic question that tests our knowledge of important national symbols. Let's think about the symbolism behind each option as we consider the correct answer. Here's a quick fact about the symbol of the Reserve Bank of India. It features a tiger standing proudly in front of a palm tree. This imagery reflects strength and resilience rooted in the country's natural heritage. Remembering this detail helps us understand the RBI's identity and the values it represents. Let's look at the original inspiration behind the RBI emblem. There are 4 options here: the Ashoka pillar, the East India Company's double moher coin, the Taj Mahal, and the British royal seal. Each of these carries its own historical significance. Our focus is to identify which one actually sparked the design of the emblem that represents the Reserve Bank of India today. The correct answer here is B. The design draws its inspiration from the imagery on gold moher coins issued by the East India Company. These coins carry a rich history, and their visual elements influence the style we see in this design. It's a great example of how historical artifacts can shape modern creativity, connecting past and present in unexpected ways. Let's test our knowledge with a quick question. Where is the central office of the Reserve Bank of India located? Is it in Chennai, Mumbai, Kolkata, or New Delhi? Think about the financial hubs and the historical significance of each city. This question helps us connect geography with the core institutions that shape the economy. Take a moment to consider your answer before we move on. The correct answer here is option C. While the Reserve Bank of India started out in Kolkata, its headquarters shifted to Mumbai back in 1937. This move marked a significant change, placing the RBI in what would become the financial capital of the country. It's a key historical detail that often comes up when discussing India's central banking system. Sovereign gold bonds give investors several ways to benefit from gold without just buying coins or jewelry. You can choose to buy physical gold biscuits directly from the Reserve Bank of India, or you might prefer investing in paper gold, which tracks the market price and even earns interest. There's also the option to wear government-approved gold jewelry or mine for gold in approved sites. These choices make gold investment more accessible and flexible than ever before. When it comes to investing in gold, sovereign gold bonds offer a smart alternative. They let us gain exposure to gold's value without the hassle or risk of storing physical metal. Plus, they pay interest, which physical gold doesn't. So not only do we avoid security concerns, but we also earn a steady return alongside potential price appreciation. It's a safer, more convenient way to invest in gold. One of the main goals behind the sovereign gold bond scheme is to address how gold is handled in the country. Options might include increasing the price of gold, reducing imports, or even closing private jewelry shops. But the key objective here is actually to encourage people to gift more gold at weddings, shifting gold from physical possession to a more secure, government-backed investment. This helps manage demand and supports the broader economy. Here, we see the correct answer is number 78. The explanation highlights a clever strategy. By providing paper gold, the government wants to reduce the demand for actual, physical gold imports. This move isn't just about convenience. It's designed to support the economy by keeping more value inside the country, rather than sending money abroad for gold. It's a smart way to balance resources and strengthen economic stability. Let's look at what the term head count ratio actually measures. It's a way to understand how many people fall below a certain threshold, often related to poverty. So, among these options, it's not about bank accounts, literacy, or school attendance. Instead, it's the proportion of the population living below the poverty line. This ratio helps us see the scale of poverty in a country, giving a clear picture of who's struggling the most. Here, we see the correct answer highlighted as number 79, with option B explained. This ties back to the wider themes we've explored throughout the General Economics series. It's a reminder that understanding context is key. The right choice often depends on seeing the bigger picture, not just isolated facts. Let's keep this in mind as we move forward. In a traditional economy, the way people make economic decisions is quite different from what we see in modern markets. It's not about computer algorithms or government orders. Instead, choices are guided by long-standing customs, beliefs, and traditions. These deep-rooted practices shape how goods are produced and exchanged, keeping the economy closely tied to cultural heritage and community values. So, tradition is really the key driver here. Here, we see that the correct answer is 80. The explanation points out that these economies are based on long-standing traditions: hunting, gathering, and simple farming. These practices have shaped how communities sustain themselves, relying on what the environment naturally provides, rather than complex trade or industrial systems. It's a reminder of how history and culture deeply influence economic structures. Let's look at some key economic terms that often come up in discussions about a country's trade and finances. When a country exports more than it imports, it's said to have a trade surplus. That means it's selling more goods and services abroad than it's buying from other countries. This is different from a trade deficit, where imports exceed exports. Other terms like fiscal deficit and high inflation relate to government spending and price levels. But here, the focus is on understanding trade balances. A trade surplus happens when a country sells more to other nations than it buys from them. In other words, it's earning more from exports than it's spending on imports. This means money is flowing into the country, which can be a sign of economic strength. Understanding this helps us see how trade balances affect a nation's overall financial health. Let's look at some major global organizations and their roles. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, both play key parts in the global economy. The World Trade Organization, or WTO, handles trade rules. But when it comes to the World Economic Outlook report, that's the IMF's work. This report gives us important forecasts and analysis on the global economy's health and direction. The correct answer here is number 82. The explanation points out that the IMF, or International Monetary Fund, is recognized as the main global authority overseeing monetary policy and financial stability. It plays a crucial role in monitoring the world economy and providing guidance to countries. This slide helps us understand why the IMF is central to global financial governance. Let's test our knowledge of Asia's financial hubs. The question asks where the Asian Development Bank, or ADB, is headquartered. Is it New Delhi, Manila, Beijing, or Tokyo? Each city plays a major role in the region, but only one hosts this important institution. Think about the city that serves as a central hub for economic development across Asia and the Pacific. That's the answer we're looking for here. The correct answer here is 83. The Asian Development Bank, or ADB, is all about development and reducing poverty across Asia. Their work targets improving lives, building infrastructure, and supporting economic growth in this region. So, when we think about the ADB's role, it's clear they focus on helping countries in Asia move forward together. Let's take a moment to think about where the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, is based. It's a key player in global finance, but its headquarters aren't in the usual financial hubs like New York or Washington, D.C. Instead, the IMF's home is in Geneva. This location reflects its international focus and its role in coordinating economic policies worldwide. So when you hear IMF, think Geneva, the city at the heart of global economic cooperation. The correct answer here is C. Both the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, are headquartered in Washington, D.C. This location places them right at the heart of global financial policymaking. It's a detail that often comes up when we talk about international economics and development. Knowing where these institutions are based helps us understand their influence and the context in which they operate. Let's talk about what high-powered money really means. It's not about money owned by billionaires or just any currency floating around. Instead, it's the total currency in circulation plus the reserves held by the central bank. Sometimes, it's also called foreign currency reserves, but the key idea is that this money powers the entire banking system. It's the foundation for all the money circulating in the economy. Understanding this helps us see how central banks influence the money supply. Here, we see why the correct answer is 85B, when the Reserve Bank of India injects money into the economy, say, through open market operations. It boosts the amount of high-powered money circulating. This increase in high-powered money means there's more liquidity available, which can stimulate economic activity. It's a key mechanism the RBI uses to manage the money supply and influence overall economic conditions. Let's talk about non-banking financial companies, or NBFCs. These institutions are quite different from regular banks. For example, they can't issue their own currency notes, and they're not owned directly by the Reserve Bank of India. Also, NBFCs don't have to maintain a cash reserve ratio with the RBI. However, unlike banks, they can't accept all types of deposits. Understanding these distinctions helps us see where NBFCs fit in the financial ecosystem. Here, we see the correct answer is number 86. The explanation highlights that NBFCs, or non-banking financial companies, offer services similar to banks. But they differ in one key way. They aren't bound by some of the reserve requirements that banks must follow, like the cash reserve ratio. This distinction shapes how NBFCs operate within the financial system. When we talk about boosting productivity in the secondary sector, there are a few key approaches to consider. It's rarely about just working harder or adding more manual labor. Instead, improvements often come from technological advancements and automation, letting machines do the heavy lifting. Sometimes, reducing the number of factories can help focus resources better. Increasing taxes on raw materials, however, usually doesn't drive productivity up. So, the real game changers are tech and automation. The correct answer here is 87. The key idea is that the industrial sector depends heavily on machinery and technology. This allows it to transform raw materials into finished goods quickly and efficiently. It's all about using tools and processes to boost productivity and meet demand. This focus on technology is what sets the industrial sector apart from others. Let's focus on what really drives health and education forward. The question here is about the primary forces behind these crucial areas. Is it high inflation, capitalist greed, the primary sector, or human development and economic growth? The key idea is that health and education don't exist in isolation. They're deeply connected to broader social and economic progress. So, the right answer points us to the bigger picture of development and growth shaping these essential services. The correct answer here is 88. And the key idea comes from Amartya Sen. He emphasized that development isn't just about money or infrastructure. It's about people. A healthy, educated population forms the foundation of true progress. Without investing in human capabilities, a country can't reach its full potential. This perspective shifts how we think about growth, focusing on well-being as much as wealth. Let's talk about a specific kind of unemployment, when someone holds a job for a short period, then takes time off to find a better position. This gap between jobs is known as frictional unemployment. It's a natural part of the job market, reflecting the time people spend searching for roles that better match their skills or preferences. Unlike other types, frictional unemployment isn't a sign of economic trouble. It's just part of how people move through their careers. Here, we see the correct answer is number 89. With option B, this choice aligns with the standard definitions of unemployment types that we've been discussing throughout the presentation. Understanding these categories helps us better analyze labor market trends and the factors influencing employment levels. It's a key piece in making sense of the bigger economic picture. Let's look at where disguised unemployment shows up most in India. It's a term that means people are working, but not really needed. Their effort doesn't add much value. The question asks us to pick from 4 sectors: manufacturing, agriculture, banking, or information technology. The answer is agriculture. That's where many more people are employed than the actual work demands, making disguised unemployment most common there. Here, we're looking at a situation where there are more workers than needed, a common scenario in family-run farms. This often happens because everyone pitches in, even when the work could be done by fewer people. It's a good example of how labor isn't always perfectly matched to the task, and it helps explain why some farms operate with extra hands on deck. Sustainable development is about finding balance. It's not about ending all international trade or focusing only on one sector like agriculture or mining. Nor is it about rapid industrialization at any cost. Instead, it means meeting our needs today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet theirs. That's the core idea: growth that's responsible, thoughtful, and lasting. The correct answer here is number 91. Option B, this choice aligns with the general economic principles we've been exploring throughout the series. It reflects the core ideas about how markets function and how incentives shape behavior. Understanding these basics helps us make sense of more complex economic scenarios, so keep this explanation in mind as we move forward. Let's take a moment to think about a key moment in India's economic history: the nationalization of 14 major banks in 1969. Who was leading the country at that time? Was it Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Morarji Desai, or Rajiv Gandhi? This question helps us connect political leadership with major financial reforms. It's a chance to recall how leadership decisions shaped the banking landscape we see today. The correct answer here is 92. The key point is that Indira Gandhi was the driving force behind a major change in 1969. She pushed for state control over the banking sector. This move reshaped the financial landscape, marking a significant shift in how banks operated in the country. Understanding this helps us see the bigger picture of economic policy during that era. Let's look at some key economic concepts here. When we talk about public projects, like building a new bridge, we're really talking about public expenditure. That means government spending on infrastructure or services that benefit everyone. It's different from private investment, which comes from individuals or businesses. It's also not about direct taxes or disinflation, which relate to revenue and price levels. So, public projects are classic examples of public expenditure in action. The correct answer here is 93. And the key idea is that spending on infrastructure plays a crucial role in government efforts to stimulate the economy. When governments invest in things like roads, bridges, and public transit, they're not just building structures, they're creating jobs, improving efficiency, and encouraging growth. Infrastructure spending acts as a powerful tool to boost economic activity and support long-term development. Let's consider what happens when the government reduces income tax. The key question is about disposable income. That's the money people have left to spend or save after taxes. If taxes go down, what happens to that amount? Does it stay the same, increase, decrease, or become zero? The answer is straightforward: disposable income will increase, giving people more financial freedom. This concept is fundamental to understanding how tax policy impacts everyday life. The correct answer here is 94. The key idea is simple: when taxes are lower, people get to keep more of their money. That extra cash doesn't just sit idle. Instead, it's spent on goods and services or invested back into the economy. This boost in spending and investment can help fuel growth, creating a positive cycle that benefits everyone. Lower taxes, more money in people's pockets, it's that straightforward. Let's break down what a regressive tax really means. In this system, the tax rate actually decreases as income goes up, so the burden falls more heavily on low-income earners. It's the opposite of a progressive tax, where rates increase with income. A regressive tax doesn't mean no tax is collected, and it's definitely not the same rate for everyone. Understanding this helps us see who's paying what and why it matters. Here, we see the correct answer is number 95, with option C being the explanation. This is based on standard definitions used in taxation. It's important to rely on these established terms to ensure clarity and accuracy when interpreting tax-related questions. Understanding these basics helps us avoid confusion and apply the right rules every time. Let's talk about what direct action by the RBI really means. It's not about protests or printing more money for a state. Instead, it's about the RBI stepping in firmly when banks break rules, imposing penalties, or even refusing to help those banks. This is how the RBI keeps the financial system in check, by taking direct, decisive steps to maintain order and trust. The correct answer here is number 96. Option B. This tool is qualitative, meaning it guides behavior rather than setting strict numbers. Its main purpose is to enforce discipline within the banking system, helping banks manage risk and maintain stability without rigid rules. It's about steering the system in the right direction, rather than controlling every detail. This approach keeps things flexible but focused on safety. Let's take a look at National Savings Certificates, or NSCs. These are a financial tool designed to encourage private borrowing. That means individuals lending money to the government. It's not about reducing the population, or international aid, or public borrowing in general. Instead, NSCs help channel private savings into government funds, supporting national development while offering returns to the saver. Understanding this helps us see how governments raise money beyond taxes. The correct answer here is 97. The key idea is that the government raises funds by borrowing directly from the public. It does this through savings schemes like the National Savings Certificate, or NSC. These programs allow everyday people to lend money to the government, which then uses those funds to finance various projects. It's a way to support public initiatives while offering citizens a secure investment option. Let's take a moment to look at the accounting year of the RBI. The options here cover different 12-month periods, from January to December, April to March, July to June, and October to September. Understanding which period the RBI uses is key, because it shapes how financial data is reported and analyzed over time. This question helps us pinpoint the official accounting cycle for the Reserve Bank of India. The correct answer here is option C. Traditionally, the Reserve Bank of India has followed a financial year that runs from July to June. This cycle shapes how their reports and policies are timed throughout the year. Understanding this timing helps us make sense of their fiscal decisions and planning. It's a detail that might seem small, but it's key to grasping the bigger picture. Let's take a moment to think about India's economy and where its strength lies. We've got 4 sectors to consider: the primary sector, which covers agriculture and raw materials; the secondary sector, focused on manufacturing and industry; the tertiary or service sector, which includes everything from banking to retail; and the mining sector, a key part of natural resource extraction. Now, which of these do you think contributes the most to India's GDP right now? It's a question that reveals a lot about the country's economic landscape today. The correct answer here is C. The service sector has grown to become the largest part of the Indian economy today. It outpaces agriculture and industry, driving much of the country's growth and employment. This shift reflects broader changes in how India creates value and connects with the global market. Understanding this helps us see where opportunities lie and how the economy is evolving. When we talk about economic growth, what are we really measuring? Is it the number of government employees, the price of gold, the number of banks, or something else? The answer is real GDP. That's the total value of goods and services produced, adjusted for inflation. It's the most reliable way to see how an economy is expanding over time, beyond just prices or employment numbers. So, real GDP gives us the clearest picture of true economic growth. That wraps up our discussion. Remember, when we see an increase in the total value of goods and services produced, adjusted for inflation, that signals real growth. It's a key measure that helps us understand economic progress beyond just rising prices. Thanks for following along.